After committing to green-blue Rosinante for the Dallas LCQ and practicing the deck for the last couple months, I put out a previous video trying out the Fishman version of the deck, but now I've spent the last month or so practicing the non-Fishman version, because a lot of you also left comments saying, Jake, you need to try this version. This video is going to be showcasing pretty much everything that I know about this deck, an open book basically. I have no secrets. We're going over the exact deck list that I'm on right now, maybe some extra options of things I want to try out in the future, an entire matchup spread as well, what I think are favorable matchups, what you should do in certain matchups that you hope to dodge, and also some sample games of the deck, talking about some of the good plays that I was making in the game and also some misplays. And most importantly, please remember as well to leave some feedback in the description, whether that's the deck list, things that you've been trying that you've liked, because I know there's a subset of people now that follow me that love playing Rosinante, and so I will probably also release a final video of what my exact deck is going to be going into Cardfest right before Cardfest, so make sure to subscribe to be able to check that out as well. But before we get into the video, let's hear from more from our sponsor. This video is brought to you by Garden. Look, I've been talking about the new King of Hearts and Cotton Candy playmats for a while now, and pre-orders are still available, releasing later this month. They're also running a special deal. You can buy any playmat. It could be one of these, it could be any of these, and you can get the Yokai playmat for just $15, a huge discount. But I'm also a huge fan of Garden's designs outside of playmats, like this t-shirt that I'm wearing right now, as well as a variety of other products if you don't want to get a playmat, like stickers, pins, desk mats. Make sure to click the link in the description below and use my code at checkout, Atrocious. It helps the channel a ton and it helps support one of my favorite people in the community. Thank you, Garden, for sponsoring this video, and let's get back to the video. It's also noted with my list if you're trying to find a deck for yourself. My good friend Josh just recently took my exact deck list into a tournament, a box tournament, for the first time and ended up winning the whole thing, not playing the deck prior.
Okay, so this is definitely just where I'm at within the deck. I would not call this like finished, but I think it's, at least at this point, a pretty good spot a couple weeks out now from the Dallas LCQ as I'm playing it. But there's some obvious picks that we'll start out with because I'm sure most of you know Sugar. Sugar is definitely in this list as a full four of, just such a great card, especially in these kind of like stall, kind of tanky, long game kind of decks. And one of the cards to go alongside of it, right, because you could potentially play it out and whatnot, is Ivankov. I'm sitting at 3 of them right now. I personally wish I could just take the card out of the deck. I actually feel like there's not too many situations where I really love this card. It does have a lot of value, and we'll get to it later of some of the value and the synergies that we've got alongside it. But I just feel like that this doesn't come up enough. But when it does come up and when it does get to stick on the field, you know, that when attacking, being able to draw one card is so nice every single attack. Get to play out a 2-drop, especially if you know that that 2-drop is on the top, or even a random 2-drop, because spoiler alert, will run a lot of 2s. This does have a lot of value. I just personally hate it. In terms of our 2K package, right, we've got a full copy of the Tashigi's, excellent board protection, right? One of the only ways that we can protect from like bottom deck removal, right? I'm talking like Gravity Blade, Red Rock, etc. on those, and any other weird combos kind of helps with the synergy. And obviously we're playing Dracula Mihawk. This is probably one of the best decks to be able to play this card because of some of the synergies that you can get with slash type characters. And I'm talking Cavendish, right? Cavendish, kind of this key star to this deck, or one of the key stars. Being able to play off of this Dracula Mihawk is just so good. And also, especially when you play him out and start swinging with him, being able to block with Leader to be able to keep him protected and have multiple turns of this draw 2 trash 1 is so good. There's a lot of times when I'm just playing out this combo that I feel like if I don't find this combo, I lose the game, which is why I wish like the 1-drop Perona, which finds slash type characters, is usable. But unfortunately, Rosinante is a special type leader, not a slash, so don't get that mixed up. There's a lot of good synergies just within this core right here, right? Especially with the Ivankov, Mihawk, and Cavendish. I've got in here, to probably nobody's surprise, the Rosinante, right? Being able to play off of this Ivankov as well as just being a good card to have, right? Any rested character would be KO'd. That's blue, that's green. Any of them can protect that Cavendish is just really, really nice. And also I've got another layer of protection in Koshiro, right? Introduced in OP12. Just a really, really good card, right? I mean, like I said, you can play this off of the Ivankov, right? It's a protection effect against any 5 cost or less slash type character. So another layer of protection for this Cavendish can also help the Mihawk as well. It's just really tough because like these two protections right here, although really strong, if I face up against any blue deck like blue purple Sanji or Kuzan, right, that have like red rocks and stuff like that, I can't protect with these two, so that's another reason why Tashigi is just so important. There's another big body that's in this deck that is so important. I am playing 4 Carat. I think this is one of the most important cards within the deck personally. Cavendish has a ton of value for sure, but even though that Carat is not a slash type character, being able to freeze a 7 or less is so good within this game. There's so many cards in so many decks that are 7 or less that really get hindered by this card right here. If this card gets a stick and be able to swing right in multiple turns, it really turns the tide in the game, especially when you talk about like even green purple Luffy being able to boost the cost of cards. Usually they'll use the Merry-Go stage to boost up a Sanji Pudding. That is still a 7 cost, so being able to freeze that is just so nice within the game. It freezes so many cards that are hugely influential. Because as you can tell, we're like an annoying wall style kind of deck. I do have a full copy of Eustace Captain Kidd, right? Just a good card in this deck. Being able to have protection effects with the Rosinante, with the Tashigi, right? Being able to even have maybe another layer of protection with Sugar, right? Think about how many cards that Eustace Captain Kidd can play off of himself, right? You can go a Rosinante, Koshiro for protection. You can also go a Sugar or even an Ivankov Tashigi, right, to be able to maybe draw some more cards, or if you know the top of your deck, which we'll get to later, you can play out the Ivankov into a Rosinante, or you could go the Tashigi for extra protection, or you could go 8 cost Kid into Dracula Mihawk into Cavendish, right? Which could be really, really good if the Eustace Captain Kidd at the time that you play him is the only thing on the field, can help really reset the board in a sense. Definitely has a lot of really cool combos in here, and being able to use him as an extra layer of protection to keep him alive in certain situations is just so good within this deck. In terms of guaranteed events also, I've got 1 Gravity Blade Raging Tiger and 2 Red Rocks. The Red Rocks are really nice to be able to just get rid of big giant stuff that maybe we'll be able to get rid of Eustace Captain Kidd pretty easily. And Gravity Blade is just a really good card in my opinion. Being able to get rid of multiple bodies, huge in stuff like the Rayleigh matchup and things like that, that has a lot of small bodies. This is what I would say is the core of the deck. No matter who you're going to play against, right, if they're running the non-Fishman version, this is kind of the guaranteed cards that you're going to find. But now I'm going to talk a little bit about the different tech cards or some of the flex spots that I've got within this deck. Maybe things that I'm not sure about, things that I'm currently trying, of that nature. So we'll start off with the things that I really do like, and I'm currently playing 2 of the OP10 Smokers. I really like this card, right? Not only does it have good synergy within the Koshiro right here in terms of the protection, getting this extra Dawn is sometimes so valuable. Like I think most times, especially if there's a character on the field, I'm almost always going to play Carrot to freeze that character. But if maybe there's nothing on the field, or really anything that I'm worried about, I like slamming down this Smoker to be able to get that Banish swing in a lot of times and be able to restand the Dawn. It's so helpful even in situations to be able on an 8 Dawn turn, right? Being able to play Eustace Captain Kidd and get his Dawn times 1 effect, because previously you played this Smoker down and you do have some other layers of protection, right, with Leader as I was talking about. But this card, even though I'm not going to play it every single game and I have it as a 2 of, just the raw draw that I have means that if I do need this card, I'm probably going to be able to find it in a lot of situations. I'm also currently playing 2 9-cost Shanks. The boss monster slot is definitely a flex, and a lot of people have a lot of different possibilities that they really like within this spot. I've seen people play 9-cost Zoro instead of Shanks. I've seen some people try out maybe the 8-cost Dracul Mihawk, right? It's just another blocker, restands a ton of Dawn, an extra layer of protection in a sense. And as well, on top of that, I've got a Dead Man's Game. Hody Jones is another option that a lot of people have in this spot, or these 3 spots, I should say, in general. I personally am trying out Dead Man's Game just because I want the flexibility of the counter, but I'm really close to trying Hody Jones, right? It's another body to play out onto the field to apply a lot of pressure. A lot of times when I'm playing Hody Jones in general, right, especially in the Fishman version, like I'm going for game, I'm trying to get around some pesky blockers, especially because 4-cost blockers are much more prevalent within the format now that Doflamingo has gotten hit by the ban list and Jinbei's gone and stuff like that. But I'm currently trying this and I currently like it. I feel like there's not really a good search for it, right? Because we're not playing the Peronas or the Hioris, because again, we're not a slash type leader. But I think that this is pretty nice, right? You could also maybe flex this with stuff like Slave Arrow or Overheat, right? That people run in the Fishman version. And I think those are kind of valid as well, right? Because you do run a lot of 2s and 3s to be able to pick up. I just feel like there's a lot of situations where maybe I don't want to pick up, those kinds of cards. So the only thing that I would say maybe is like Slave Arrow, I think is what I would prefer if you wanted like a 1-cost event, because sometimes when I'm playing out some of the cards like Mihawk or something like that, it's nice to be able to have this extra counter at the point where like, okay, I need to clear a body off the field because I don't want to just outright replace it with a 9-cost Shanks or an 8-cost Kid or a Carrot or something like that, and they're probably not really going to get any swings in. So these slots are definitely up for grabs, but I'm currently kind of a fan of 9-cost Shanks. I really like this guy because he just outright removes something off the field, which a lot of times, especially when you have Sugar in play, that can rest any body after it's played. Somebody plays like a 10-drop on you, and then Shanks goes ahead and rests it. I can immediately go in and be like, okay, I just deleted your whole entire turn with this 9-cost Shanks. And by the way, he's an 11,000 power body. So I like this card currently. I think it's still kind of a flex spot based on what you like personally, but I have it in there for now. I rounded out my 2Ks with 2 of Charlotte Puddings. This is definitely the spot where I'm like, man, I really don't know if this is a good idea or not. Or it's fine based on what it is. It's another target to hit off Ivankov, and you can just use that activate main to return it to your hand. It's really nice to draw off of like Cavendish or something like that to get that extra counter. And a lot of times too, right, like the 2Ks that I do have with the Mihawk and the Tashigi, I'm playing these guys down a lot of time, especially in the early game, to be able to get this Cavendish to stick, the Tashigi to be able to protect stuff off the board like Kid. So I kind of want some 2Ks that I don't need to play. So currently right here, right now, I'm somewhat happy with it, but I'm trying to figure out if there are any other options that are just better than this, especially because I also have in 2 Duvals. I think Duval's actually really, really nice to have in the deck. I've been really happy about this choice, but I'm not going to sit here and say that it's a perfect choice within the deck, right? Especially like going on the even curve. As you can imagine, I probably like the even curve with this deck. I've really liked going second, especially on a 2-drop play, right? A lot of times on a 4-Dawn turn, I am playing Cavendish Mihawk combo. I'm trying to get both of these guys out onto the field. And especially with 4 copies each, a lot of times I'm going to have one of those 2 pieces in my hand. So especially since I don't really have any search, the Duval is really nice to be able to look at that top 3 cards. And I'm like, okay, is another one of these pieces in those top 3? And it can also set me up for a lot of other great things as well, right? It can help set me up for an Ivankov play, right? Ivankov into Sugar, or Koshiro, Rosinante, right? Even this Pudding, it can even do. So I really like Duval. It's not always that I needed him, and a lot of times I'm thinking about changing this spot of Pudding into just 4 Duvals, because sometimes I feel like he does have a lot of value in the game, right, to be able to set up future turns. But I don't know if it's enough value to sacrifice some of my 2Ks, because as you can see in here, right, here's some non-counter, here's some non-counter, here's some non-counter, here's some non-counter, here's some non-counter. I have a lot of non-counter in the deck, and if I don't have the filter effect of the Cavendish, that non-counter can stack up within my hand. So I'm kind of afraid to like cut down on 2Ks. And kind of the flex spot that I'm most happy with at this point is the 3-drop Rosinante. I don't think this is something that is completely necessary to play in the deck, but I have really, really liked this guy in here, right? Only one Dawn needed to be able to swing 5 at leader, and as a blocker that has the ability to restand as active on opponent's attack, this is before your counter or block phase in the game that he gets to restand. So I'm pretty much always going to get like some sort of value, and especially with green being so prevalent, with Hody Jones, with Dead Man's Game, right? He still gets a lot of value because, well, if they play Hody Jones or Dead Man's Game and rest my blocker, as soon as they start swinging, I can restand him. So there's a lot of value, right, being able to play off of Eustace Captain Kidd as well. I have so many Eustace Captain Kidd targets that I really like within this deck, and this kind of rounds it out in a sense. And this is the deck list of where I am right now. And again, as I said earlier, feel free to leave like critiques or ideas, especially in these flex spots, of what you guys are really liking to do in your deck list, because I'm trying to just find the best options. So especially with, still a couple weeks until Dallas, still testing out different ideas and functions of this deck, the input is very appreciated. All right, so let's sit outside because it's actually a really nice day out here in Vegas. It's less than 100 degrees. And let's talk about the matchups for Rosinante and the matchups in my opinion. So the main reason that you want to play this deck in this format is for the green Zoro matchup. I am convinced that you have a winning green Zoro matchup, and it's probably your best matchup out of especially all the major decks that are going on right now in format. Being able to just nullify his leader effect with your leader effect is so good, right? Especially with keeping characters on the field, which is kind of one of Zoro's biggest priorities and strengths as a deck, being able to clear board and then swing at leader. You really take away one of those options and force him to really only swing at leader. As well as Carrot's stun, right? Carrot is phenomenal in that matchup because Zoro, a slow setup deck, only playing like one body per turn, you can stun that body like the Tashigi right after they get that initial swing off, maybe Sugar rest Tashigi as it comes into play. And so Carrot can be really, really nice. So you're only really focusing on like leader a lot of times. You also have to worry about though with the 3-cost restand event with Zoro, because although you can nullify the leader effect of green Zoro with your leader effect, if they get to restand through the 3-cost event, they could actually go in and do the activate main on leader and restand to get another swing in. So that's just something you got to think about, especially once you get into the later turns of Zoro. The early game, it doesn't really matter because usually they're playing out a body instead of playing that event, but later in the game is really when you need to worry. I've also kind of thought about 4-cost Arlong, right? If I was running the Fishman version of the build, I would love to have this 4-cost Arlong to nullify Zoro's leader effect, right? Force him not really to be able to get a swing at all in the coming turns, and synergizes pretty well with the 3-cost Dracula Mihawk, but honestly, I don't really think it's needed in the deck. If I were to replace it, I'd probably replace it with the 5-cost Smoker, right? Take that out, put the Arlong back in, and maybe honestly it works in enough matchups, right? Just nullifying the leader in general, it can work out, but having to trash a card in hand sometimes is just really, really tough, I think. So real quick, talk about some of the bad matchups in Sokka, Kuzan, Sanji, and Nami. As I mentioned in the video, like the biggest thing about those decks is that your protection effects are really tough against bottom decking or bouncing back to hand. And even though you have like 3-cost Tashigi, 3-cost Tashigi is small enough to where a lot of times it just really doesn't matter. And kind of in that same sense, Rob Lucci, I think, is also a difficult matchup. It's not impossible, but I do think it's difficult because with the Rob Lucci matchup, right, your protection effects are so small. They're all 3-cost and below. Very easy to get rid of with Rob Lucci, and honestly at times pretty easy for them to double KO as well. Especially in Rob Lucci, when you start talking about the Jack, right? Jack effect can get rid of one body for no cost of Dawn at all if it was already on the field, and then they can do whatever they want to get rid of some of the other bodies. Shanks, I think, is also a bad matchup, especially with things like Ben Beckman, right? I can't really get around Ben Beckman besides that 3-cost Tashigi. And the fact of the matter is, like, out of all the decks that play 3-cost Tashigi, I think Rosinante is one of the hardest to play. Like, you have to do it on the odd curve, I feel like, on 3. And that's like one of the only times that I really feel safe playing it outside of like Eustace Captain Kidd. Because the other times I'm trying to like establish a body, right? I'm trying to establish Kidd, I'm trying to establish Cavendish, Smoker, because those are just generally better for my game plan. But in my opinion, those decks are probably not going to be prevalent enough within the meta, even though that's a lot of really tough, like losing matchups. I feel like they're not prevalent enough to be a difference to me. Like, even though I have these bad matchups, it's not like, oh, those bad matchups in total are a majority of the meta and therefore I don't want to touch them, because I feel like, as you can see on here, I feel like I have a lot of pretty neutral matchups, like kind of 50-50s in a sense, to a lot of the other decks, especially ones that are way more popular, including Rayleigh. I think Rayleigh's kind of a 50-50, but it's honestly one of those 50-50s where like you steamroll, like we showed kind of in the Fishman version, or they steamroll. Because like it's no doubt that things like Sugar are really, really good into Rayleigh. And especially also Gravity Blade, as I mentioned in the deck profile. But especially with the inclusion of a lot of rushers that I see in Rayleigh. I mean, think about it, if you go second against Rayleigh, right? They play a 1-drop Searcher in Shakuyaku or Nami, right, to start out the game, or Buggy, right? And you on 2 play Sugar, you can't swing and clear that little 1-drop on the field. So if they go in and on their 3-Dawn turn, they slam down a 3-cost Zoro, that means your Sugar is going to get cleared immediately, right? Because you could protect it if there was only one body on the field outside of the leader, but because there's multiple bodies at that point, you can only rest one of them and the other one has Rush, it's hard to keep Sugar on the field. Sugar is very, very important in that matchup, and so is something like Carrot, right? Being able to freeze some of their swings that they may have for repeat turns. But really, you're trying to bait out Mulgun, because it's not a secret that Mulgun Pistol is going to be a counter to 8-cost Kidd, and especially if they have a lot of swings on board, you can only have so many protection effects, right? Or like mini blockers to be able to use to keep Kidd alive. So I think a lot of times you're trying to get them to use Mulgun like on your Cavendish and Sugar, or on a protection effect that you have for the Cavendish or the Smoker or something of that sort. I think that's kind of the biggest thing within that matchup. And a lot of times, if you can bait a Mulgun in those early turns, you might be able to actually win the game. And they got to find Mulgun too. Bonnie, I think, is another 50-50. Sugar and Carrot, another great combination. Like a lot of times in that matchup, I feel like it's whoever can find Carrot, because Carrot in both of our decks, both Bonnie and Rosinante, Carrot is unsearchable, the 5-cost, because it is a Minx type, not a Supernova or a Slash or anything. I think it's like a Strike or Special or something like that. But it's actually really, really good, right? Being able to nullify their 4-cost to minimize swings, or be able to rest things as they come into play, especially Sugar when they're dropping like 10 drops or something like that. Like the Doflamingo, Sugar puts in so much work. 8-cost Kidd also really, really good within that matchup, especially if you can get, you know, the blockers out on field and really try to prioritize them swinging at that 8-cost Kidd, because a lot of times, oh my, there's a beeping, there's a truck backing up. Especially when you talk about when Bonnie in the later turns after Kidd is trying to establish big bodies of their own, they actually can't really swing at Kidd a lot of times, and so your Kidd gets a lot of value on the field. So definitely really like that. And you can, what's that thing called? Red Rock. You can Red Rock one of their kids. And it feels really good too in the Sugar matchup. I know I already talked about Sugar, but I'm going to mention it again. Like when Sugar rests a 10-drop on their field, or like a 9-drop or something like that, being able to 9-drop Shanks and kill that and basically nullify their entire last turn is so good. Like having Kidd Sugar out works wonders, I think, in the matchup. Green Purple Luffy, I think, is a tougher matchup for the Slash version than the Fishman version. In the Fishman version, I was convinced in my playtesting that it was a good matchup, But I think in this, it's a little more flimsier. Dead Man's Game or Hody Jones, whatever you decide to run, is huge in the matchup. Sugar works wonders, right? Because Sugar allows you to rest anything, as well as completely nullifying 6-cost Luffy. If you think that your green-purple Luffy opponent is going to try to go for game and play down that 6-cost Luffy, Sugar wins that point right there, nullifies that win condition, because a lot of times they don't have something else to play because they've been so tight on Dawn in a sense. It's also really nice with Carrot within that matchup because Carrot, as I mentioned in the video, Marigo puts it to a 7 cost, which still gets stunned by Carrot. So you can nullify a lot of stuff in the matchup with just Carrot and Sugar. I feel like actually talking about it more and more, I've said that so many times. Carrot, Sugar, Carrot, Sugar, Carrot, Sugar. It's such a good combination. Red Green Smoker, in my opinion and in my testing, feels like a die roll kind of matchup where it's 50-50. Like, you need to go second. That's the first thing. The chump blockers are also really, really good in the matchup, right? To be able to especially dump out and block the 5-cost Smoker Banish, right? That you know is coming. Being able to freeze that 5-cost with Carrot or bottom deck the 5-cost in something else with Gravity Blade Raging Tiger is so nice within that matchup. Sugar also very, very good. I'm just going to keep talking about that combination. Now, talking about Enel and Yamato, some of the matchups that I think are favored, I will admit that I don't have as much testing with those two winning matchups and then these three right here, so they're kind of just guesses. But Enel, the 3-cost Rosinante, is so nice, right? Being able just for 1 Dawn to be able to chip a little 5. I really like swinging 5s in the matchups. I know you don't always think the matchup is convinced by triggers, but the less popping effects that they have on trigger, whether that's like a Hino Bird Zap or I don't know, anything that pops something, is so nice. You have protection effects for the Yamato that comes in, which is really, really good for some of your bigger bodies, even though you can't really always protect for 8-cost Katakuri. A lot of times just being able, when they're trying to starve you and swing at your characters to clear board, being able to use leader effect to block and refill your hand by taking your life when you're at 7 life is so good. I really, really like it. I think it's really nice. 2-cost Rosinante also really, really good. Sugar also really good in that matchup because Sugar, they play a 10 drop or an 8 drop or a 9 drop, and I say, you know what, rest that. Especially the 10 drops with Rush. Blue Purple Luffy, I think, is a really bad matchup. I mean, we kind of lucked out because Blue Purple Luffy did get nerfed with the pair ban of the 9-drop Linlin and 8-drop Katakuri, so the heal factor isn't a bother. But because 9-cost Sanji lived within this meta, being able to play 9-cost Sanji into a 9-cost Dracula Mihawk or an 8-cost Luffy or whatever is actually really bad. We can't deal with a spam of big bodies. The once per turn big bodies that we definitely can match up against and do really well because we have Sugar 9-cost Shanks, because we have Red Rock, but multiple bodies gets really difficult after a while. So you better hope you got something like a Dead Man's Game, or if you're worried about Blue Purple Luffy, maybe instead of Dead Man's Game, put something like Hody Jones in, because that could work really well in that matchup. Bello Betty, I think, is a good matchup. I don't think I have to worry too much about Bello Betty in 12 like I did 11, but it's still a thought in my head because I know that it is an overly popular deck. I mean, just being able to get rid of board entirely for them, you rest pretty much everything with the Sugar effect. You can freeze things with Carrot. You can also keep your characters alive with protection effects, with your leader effect, and then go into 8-cost Kid, which what do they do against 8-cost Kid? I don't really know. Besides absolutely try to blow it up, so 3-cost Rosie gets a lot of value. If you can get to that late game, which is kind of what our deck I think is meant to do a lot of times, you just beat Bello Betty. Black Purple Luffy, I think, is a neutral matchup. If they go a lot more focused into the removal aspect, I think that it's probably a little bit lower, maybe like a 45-55 in a sense, but I think it's pretty 50-50, right? Because it's basically like Green Purple Luffy in a sense. I mean, a lot of their stuff comes in rested, and they, you bait out Gum Gum Giant stuff and you freeze things. So you do have to think about a lot of times though with the freezing of Carrot, and especially with Sugar, the +1 cost on that leader effect. That could be something that you're not worried about or you're looking for, can catch you off guard. Yellow Kid, I think, is also a good matchup for Rosinante, right? You're just a tanky deck. Sugar is so annoying, and especially with 8-cost Kid, my 8-cost Kid, like, you can't really get rid of it besides blasting. And so I just go blockers, 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 and you try to leader effect, stand the Basil Hawkins. I'm like, okay, sugar, rest that, swing past it. So I don't have to burn a life or anything like that. So I'm not going to sit here and say that Rosinante is the best choice within the game right now or heading into Dallas Card Fest, because there are some losing matchups that I do worry about in a sense because this format is so wide open. But I think because of having a good Zoro matchup, having decent matchups into Rayleigh, Bonnie, Teach, Green, Purple, Luffy, Teach as well. I didn't really talk about Teach. Do I have Teach on my notes? I wrote down like a bunch of notes. Teach is not on this list that I have, but I think Teach is a fair matchup. I think because of your protection effects, Teach can struggle a little bit with it, and especially like the freezing of the minusing stuff that you had, or maybe freezing Burgess is a big deal. It kind of like stuns, in a sense, the Blackbeard player, and especially if you tech in Hody Jones over Deadman's Game, which is one of the reasons why I'm actually considering switching, because I really like Blackbeard in this OP12 format. I think he's had some flashes and I think he can do some good things. I think it's something you got to worry about. But overall, like, I think having fair matchups into a lot of the most present decks that I'm predicting in Dallas makes it a viable deck overall, and especially with lack of matchup knowledge maybe by the opposing players. I know I'm kind of nerfing myself by putting all of this information on a YouTube video, but like, I want to kind of document and show you guys like what my practice is looking like, what my thoughts are looking like, because honestly, I have no secrets when it comes to my own content. So let's get into some sample games that I got for you that I did on Ranked Ladder.
Okay, so first we're going to talk about the Lucci matchup that I've got on this video. So I ended up winning the die roll. You go second. I just feel like second is so good within this deck, and especially with the 2-cost Koshiro with the Mihawk Cavendish combo. I think that's kind of like the exact thing that you need, because especially at 3 Dawn, there's not a lot of options, I feel like, for Rob Lucci to get rid of it, except for maybe Brooke, but you're really asking them to have it at that point, and as you can see, the Rob Lucci player did not have it. So I'm going to go in with the 6 right here and then go into the Mihawk Cavendish combo, which again, I think is the best combo that you can ask for right now. Now I feel pretty good about my Cavendish staying alive, right? I can block with leader. If he tries to remove the Cavendish, well, the Koshiro is going to be rested instead. Not even removed, just rested. That's one of the big things about the Koshiro that I really, really like. It kind of forces him to go after the Koshiro, right? So he's going to end up swinging 6 at lead. I'm probably just going to take this. I don't think I want to counter as of yet. Although you could say that you could 2K counter, but I go ahead and take that one, and just establishing a Kuzan down. The Kuzan is kind of interesting there, right? Because again, my Koshiro still lives at this point. So right now with this 6K swing, I'm trying to find sugar, right? If I can find a sugar, that'll be really, really nice, because then I'm able to get rid of the Kuzan right away. Now it's just a little bit more delayed. So I'm going to get rid of the Ivankov. I don't have a ability to know what's at the top of the deck, so I don't really need it, I feel like, at this point. With the different blockers that I've got on field, my game plan looking like in this one, it's going to be a lot of swings with blockers. So I'm just going to go in. I think I'm just going to play the Koshiro and the Rosinante. Double protect on the Koshiro is pretty nice. It's a little bit slower of a game plan right now, but I think it'll be okay. We got a Jack in here, and Jack on curve means that I will not be able to get KO'd essentially with this Cavendish. So decided to just let that one go, right? Because I think it's also incorrect to let that one go, because one interaction that I didn't really think about, one of the reasons is like, oh, he's going to get KO'd anyways. But something that I should have done is I should have done the actual resting effect, right? Because this Koshiro saves this Koshiro, so I should have used the effect to rest this Koshiro. I still have this blocker up, and maybe he goes in and swings at this Koshiro anyways, right? And especially if he does, I can do a lot of deterring. So I think that was the correct play. I don't think it matters all too much, but I still think it's something that, you know, kind of the min-maxing, especially in a bad matchup that I feel like that is Rob Lucci, that you should think about. So off this 5K swing, I'm thinking about blocking on this one, just getting rid of that guy. I can't protect him, so not really thinking about it too much. There is a reason where I probably could have just given a 2K, right? Because if he swings with this Kuzan, that Rosinante is really nice to be able to swing at that Kuzan, but I top deck the sugar anyways, always broken, and now I'm just going to be going in at this Kuzan, just saying, okay, do you have it on this Kuzan? So I'll just attach one, swing 7, kind of force 2 cards out of this hand. And even with the carrot right here, I'm even thinking about now just pivoting from the swinging at Kuzan and just going in and freezing with carrot. That might just be my game plan. Now swinging 5 at lead. So after getting a couple cards in his hand, going to be getting that life, playing that carrot down, and freezing the Kuzan, even if the Jack right now just does a little bit of minusing, gets rid of the carrot, even though I can't save carrot. Again, that'll deter from the Cavendish. The carrot's already put in some work, in my opinion. So went ahead and used that Jack, got rid of the carrot. Does not want that carrot on the field, especially in the later turns of the game, with this Rob Lucci. So getting rid of that, now I really only have to think about one swing, and this is one of the big things about this deck in general, right? Like, I've got some cards in hand. You want to guarantee get rid of this. I think this is honestly a terrible play in my opinion, because, well, I could go 2-drop blocker in the Koshiro. I'm just going to block with leader, right? Just take that life. I'm like, sure, I'll take a piece of candy right out of there. And he's got 2, which could be a black spiral, but I'm not really thinking about black spiral, I feel like, at this point, especially with carrot still on the field. I'm going to swing with carrot first, just in case it is a black spiral, right? Because my freeze effect does hit first, but if it is another black spiral, right, I can guarantee that this Kuzan is not going to swing, because I think I'm playing the 9-cost Shanks this turn to get rid of the Jack. I get rid of the Gravity Blade because I feel like I don't really need it at this point. Going to be swinging 5 with lead, and I think another 5 with the Mihawk, because I'm at a full 10 Dawn turn, just chipping him away, and now getting rid of this Jack. The cost not mattering with the Jack. Going to be really nice to just be able to get this guy on the field, especially because at this stage of the game, it's really hard for him to get rid of the Shanks on curve, especially with this play of just the 10-drop Kuzan. Like, sure, the carrot goes away, but I got all these guys right now. You don't have anything else to do after countering out of that swing, keeping the body alive. So I think I'm kind of just going for game right now, especially this 11K swing is going to connect, right? Put him down to 0 life. There is a thought of maybe I should have swung with the Mihawk first, right? To try to, if there is a Tempest Kick KO, but I feel pretty good right now, especially with this 10K swing right here on this, and be able to get the game, because wow, look at these bricks in hand. Brick, because no Dawn up, brick, only having 4K counter in total. So yeah, looking pretty good in that game. And I felt honestly a little bit safe, because if I felt that I wouldn't be able to go get game, I could just carrot freeze this Kuzan and I still feel pretty good, right? Like the 10-drop Kuzan maybe goes ahead and swings, or I could just counter out of the 10-cost Kuzan swing because he's only 10K counter, or use a blocker in general. So I felt pretty safe on that. But again, that's one of the things. And even though this is a bad matchup, right, just showing you like how good this 3 can be right here. Like, I literally think that these 3 bodies played on 2 Dawn and 4 Dawn really just swing a lot of matchups. Like, this applies so much pressure, and you saw the value of carrot, you saw the value of sugar even in that game. Like, that's kind of like the ideal stuff going on right now, even though I didn't play like Use's Captain Kidd. So now let's talk about Red Green Smoker. As I mentioned in the matchup knowledge, I do think you need to go second within this matchup. And I actually feel pretty decent about this hand, right? I got a Sugar and Duval in the starting hand, so I cannot complain about this. Gonna start off with a Perona. That's totally okay. I'm going to Duval because I need to find Cavendish, right? I've got the Mihawk in play. and I think it's going to be a pretty good turn. So find the Cavendish in the top 3. That's one of the reasons I love Duval in this deck, even though it's only in top 3 and it's kind of a small percentage to be able to find it. Like I mentioned, I'm probably going to have one of those 2 pieces in my hand, so being able to do that extra dig to be able to maybe get that final piece, as most always I'm taking the first life as well. That's like 4 cards digging that I'll be able to find this combo. So starting out with a 6k swing right here before I go in with the Draco Mihawk. He starts out with Sanji, which Sanji is probably the ideal 3 cost to have on a 3-Dawn turn. Really sets him up nice for his leader effect later, be able to try to get a lot of pressure on this Cavendish right now, because I think what he's going to try to do is he's going to try to get cards in hand, going to try to get me to take a life, right? But going at face instead, kind of ignoring this Cavendish, saying, you know what? It's probably going to get redirected at face anyway, so might as well do it. So I ended up taking that first one. I do have that blocker, as I mentioned, so I'm not really worried about losing this Cavendish on this turn. Duval can be blocked, and that would be okay. But if I can keep Duval up, that's pretty nice. My opponent getting a lot of Virgo plays right now, I think can still get leader effect off and play like a 4-cost Tony Chopper at this point, but you really like how, you know, they kind of utilize this turn for that specific combo in general and didn't play something like a 5-cost Smoker on the field. So I'm just going to counter out of this. I don't need the Ivankov, and the Tony Chopper comes down. The Tony Chopper is interesting. I do have Sugar on field, but I'm also thinking about Smoker and Sugar potentially as a combination, right? Sugar is great to establish within the game, and then with that restanding effect, I can go ahead, play down the Sugar, rest that Tony Chopper, and now go in at this Sanji. I want to get rid of this Sanji on the field. Even though he gets to draw a card off it, it's 1 less attack and applies the pressure of, okay, do you actually want to swing with that Tony Chopper? One of your only swings that you've got on the field right now, aside from these little 1-drops that'll probably go ahead at Sugar. I've kind of determined at this point that Sugar is more than likely going to go down, but it's kind of delaying this point. So now going into their 7-Dawn turn at this point, got to start thinking about Hoodie Jones, because Hoodie Jones always a factor, right? Especially when you have blockers like I do in this game. And just going to be starting out with a 4K swing at the Mihawk. I'm really thinking about countering this just simply because, and one of the things that I could have done is I could have blocked with leader on that and maybe given up the Ivankov 1K, but I was really thinking that he was going to go in kind of with this Cavendish, and I kind of wanted to keep Duval up on the field. Although if I'm thinking about Hoodie Jones, maybe I always block with Duval on that one to kind of force him to have it. But he's starting out with a Searcher, going to be able to find a piece, probably 5-cost Smoker. And if he doesn't play 5-cost Smoker on here, it's kind of what we talked about with the problem with the red-green Smoker deck here on the channel, is that you either find 5-cost Smoker or you don't, and you just lose. So I'm going to be really annoying here, and I'm going to go ahead and block this swing after resting the Tony Chopper with the Sugar. Just make it really annoying for him. Try to commit more of these swings right here. I might Duval block actually on this one. Just try to keep Sugar alive as long as possible, because I might 2K 1K out of this. I'm not 100% sure. I think I am going to do it, which I don't know if it is correct to be able to 2K 1K, but I really want to hold on to Sugar as long as I possibly can. And there goes the 5-cost Smoker. I've got the Gravity Blade in hand, so I really love seeing this. And it would only really suck at this point if another Tony Chopper blocker were to come down. But because of the Koshiro coming in instead, I'm totally cool with the Gravity Blade. So I think I play... No, I don't play Gravity first. I think I'm going to try to get him to block on this. Just draw 2, trash 1, see what I've got going on, because I think on an 8-Dawn turn, I might be able to establish another Sugar right now. So just going to go ahead and get rid of the non-counter in the Shanks, especially with Gravity Blade. Feel like I don't really need it. Could be a potential trigger. It is going to be a Mulgun, so that's why I should have definitely done Gravity Blade first. I kind of honestly forgot about the Mulgun, or if I had done Gravity Blade first, right, to bottom deck this one and this one, the Mulgun trigger actually can't KO my Smoker, can minus the Smoker to put it down in power, but I would have been able to have Smoker on field. So that's kind of one of the things that I'm talking about in like the misplay, something that you got to think about, even though it's very unlikely that they hit a Mulgun trigger. Just thinking that, oh gosh, if they do hit that Mulgun trigger, I lose out on a body. I lose out in pressure in future turns. So that's something that definitely I wish I could take back. But in this game, I'm still in a decent position, I feel like. I'm not in a great position because now I can't even restand one and play a Sugar or a 2-drop Rosinante or Koshiro. So I'm just going to go ahead and 6k at lead to be able to fetch the Kinemon 2k that we saw him search. And now with the Gravity Blade, I'm going to be going in with that. I still have the Sugar on field, though, and a little bit of counter in hand. So if he tries to go in then with like a body, whether it's like an 8-cost Mihawk or something like that, I am going to be able to rest it and be able to continue to apply pressure on the field with some of these bodies. So even if it's another 5-cost Smoker, it'll be rested by Sugar, and then I can freeze it with Carrot, which will be really, really nice. So my opponent kind of in a difficult position, right? Kind of struggled a little bit to find the 5-cost Smoker in the beginning of the game and immediately getting rid of it. He's got to find another one. So Mihawk is coming down. Sugar is going to be able to rest it, and I love seeing the Sugar. Am I thinking about a different body? I hope I rest the... Yeah, I was going to say, I hope I rest the Mihawk because that's the one that I really want to do. I know that I can't keep Sugar alive anymore, and I have another one in my hand, so it's just going to be nice to get rid of it. This is kind of where I wish that I still had the 9-drop Shanks to be able to get rid of the Dracula Mihawk, but can't complain too much right now. After playing the Smoker, he is going to go ahead at the Cavendish, and I'm just going to take the 1 life. And honestly, right now, I think my game plan might just be to play a Sugar and some blockers to be able to continue to apply pressure, right? I can go ahead and if I play Sugar first, I can get some swings at life because I can rest the Koshiro and be able to really with only 2 cards in hand, like I'm fetching game almost at this point. So thinking about playing this down first to rest that Koshiro, like I mentioned, going to be able to do that and going to probably swing 6 at life at this point, maybe 7, trying to think about with my 2s what all I want to do. So I am going to be committing the 1 Dawn onto the Cavendish, or actually I swing 6 and 7, I feel like at this point. And drawing 2 2Ks is awesome because I might just go ahead and get rid of this Carrot. I hope I got rid of the Koshiro. Okay, maybe I'm thinking about playing Carrot at this point. He ends up taking this life, and I'm going to, go ahead, attach 4 and just swing 9 at this point. And so I am going to play the 2 Rosinantes right now, and I've got a bit of counter in hand, so I'm not super worried about too much dying right now. Hody Jones would spell disaster for me, but trying to think about what the best play is, and I definitely should do those Rosinantes, and a Paradise Waterfall trigger comes in. So the Paradise Waterfall is actually really, really bad for me because, one, it got rid of Arrested 4-cost in the Cavendish, but also I don't really have a lot of bodies to be able to swing with in the next turn, right? And so now all these swings are going to be going at face. He's got the 5-cost Smoker with the Banish swing. That's not going to be redirected at my Cavendish. So it's going to be really tough right now, but if he plays a body, I'm going to be able to math out basically 4 game because of the blocker. So it actually plays over a Koshiro blocker, which I think is super interesting. So I'm going to go ahead and rest the Dracula Mihawk. I'm actually not totally afraid of losing right now because I feel like this Rosinante could stay alive, and so I'm going to let the Sugar go. Sugar has done its job. I'm going to let that die right here. The 2,000 power swing, going to go at this Rosinante. I think I'm actually going to block with lead. Just be really annoying right now because block with lead really doesn't do many other things. And I think he's probably going to swing one more time, maybe at this Rosinante, and then go ahead and swing at leader with the 2 swings. And I feel I can get I can get out of one of the swings. So just with this 6K swing right here, just going to swing that one. The Hody Jones comes in, or the Smoker first comes in. If they swing the Smoker first, I just block with the Rosinante. No, I'm going to get out of it. Okay, I'm just going to get out of another swing. Potentially have 2 Rosinante swings coming in, because especially with no blockers, might be able to go in at game. But if he plays like a 4-drop Tony Chopper, that is going to make my math a little bit more difficult, I think. So it's really got to think about right now, especially with this Hody Jones, where he wants to swing. Swinging at this Rosinante, I think, is fine because it's not going to do anything different per se. I've still got the 2 swings. And so now with the 5-cost, Bonnie is going to be able to get that filter, and I hate to see the filter because you got to think getting rid of a non-counter and being able to keep the 2Ks that are in his hand makes this math really difficult for me. And this is what I was saying about how if I had just done the Gravity Blade first, that this might have been a lot different, right? I might have been able to have another body on field to keep alive for this end game swing, because you got to think that the Smoker would probably still be alive, right, if I had kept it around, because even though the Paradise Waterfall would probably KO the Cavendish, the Smoker being a 7,000 power body in the face of 8,000, 7,000 power swings, I've got the counter to be able to keep it alive, especially with the different blockers and being able to restand one Dawn with the Smoker effects, be able to play down another blocker. So I think if I had just done that, this game would have been a done deal. I would have been able to seal this up, but now it's a little bit harder. So I got to think about the different counter that's in hand potentially and the correct number. I think the correct number that I swing with is 7-8 or 8-8. I think at this point. 7 Dawn, 7 Dawn would be 8, and then 3 would be another 8. So I'm thinking about either 7-7 or 7-9, or I'm thinking of 8-8. Trying to think of what is the better number. I mean, if he has the counter in hand, if he has 2 2Ks, if he can get to 9,000, he just wins, right? So I'm going to put 3 on the Rosinante first. I'm going to try to buff a Hody Jones play potentially, right? And so he's probably going to block, I think, on this. If he just shows 9K in counter, I mean, he's got multiple ways around it, 2K, 1K, 1K, or 2K, 2K, but ends up blocking with it. And now I'm just going to go in with a Rosinante. It would be kind of the same amount as a Hody Jones, so the difference doesn't really mean anything, but only having 2K, 1K, I am going to win the game because did not use that counter event up there. I think, honestly, well, it was tough because he played the Bonnie to finish out his turn and only had 1 rested Dawn to be able to utilize, so didn't really have a good play for this. Man, just a really close game in that one, and you can see how, like, this deck kind of walks a fine line a lot of times on, like, making one mistake, especially on a rogue deck, can mean the whole world, right? Can really means that you just lose outright. So definitely got to clean up some things and be more wary on some things, especially in this matchup, but especially going second, like as you can see, some of the combos I can do can be really, really strong. Okay, so now we're going to go into this Shanks matchup, and I almost thought about leaving this Shanks matchup out, but I wanted to include it. This game was really, really weird, so just going to kind of show you a little bit on how adjusting to weird, especially in the face of a bad matchup, starts out with that Red Force. I think that's a bad card for me personally because it just makes it harder to keep things alive, but having the Mihawk Cavendish combo is really, really good, right? Just being able to get that onto the field and restand is really nice on the odd curve, right? Is the ideal second turn play, in my opinion, more often than not. You always want to play Cavendish, whether you're cheating it out with the Mihawk or just playing it outright. So on 4 Dawn, I gotta be wary of a Red Hawk right now, but leaving 3 open, it might be something along the lines of like a Sanji. So he is going to Red Force that Cavendish and go ahead and swing. Is probably going to swing at this Cavendish, but maybe thinking about my leader, just go at leader instead, right? I don't think it's too much of a difference because if he swings at the Cavendish, I'm probably just taking the life. So ends up preemptively playing the Hongo. And so one of the things that he could have done if he wanted to go in with the swing at Cavendish, he could have swung with the Hongo first and then done the Cavendish, but I think maybe worried about like my Dracula Mihawk taking that KO. So just going to pass off the turn as I take the life. And so now with this Cavendish, I can try to go in and maybe bait this this leader effect. I'm trying right now to find a 5-drop smoker to be able to put on the field right with that banish, but having another Cavendish means that I could potentially swing like 5-5 onto the field, right, with my Mihawk and Rosinante. Just want to swing a lot of littles, right, especially when there's no 4-cost Shanks on the field. A lot of littles can deal a lot of damage, right, because this deck runs a ton of no counter, and ended up using leader effect on the Cavendish, but took the life anyways. So I think that was honestly maybe a misclick or a kind of misplay by my opponent, but I am going to be netting a card out of hand with the Rosinante swing. The Mihawk is going to be able to get one, and putting down another Cavendish is going to be really nice if he tries to go all in on this Cavendish with the different swings. There goes that 4-drop Shanks. That's going to be a good card within this matchup, right? Just kind of make my math a little bit more difficult, especially with these Cavendishes, right? Might be able to block for free with just a leader effect block, right? Putting my Cavendish down to 5 if I keep it at base, but is going to be using the red force more than likely on this Cavendish to be able to swing at it a little bit. We'll see if he also commits the Hongo, because especially if he commits the Hongo, he has to rest the Hongo to be able to get that effect, I believe. Or is it when attacking? I can't remember exactly. But it's going to start out the swing right there. Yeah, you do have to rest the Hongo to be able to get the effect. So he's just going to swing at the Mihawk. I'm kind of fine committing a 1K to this. I think I'm going to get rid of the Ivankov here because, you know, I can keep him there, but honestly, just blocking with my leader is probably my best bet because there's no minusing effects that can do. He's only going to be swinging 6 at this, which I do have a 2K in hand, so I'm just going to be able to get rid of the 2K, the other Mihawk, and be able to keep all of these bodies out onto the field. So finding another Ivankov right here, gonna try to swing 7, force him to commit a card out of hand, either with the 4-cost Shanks effect, right, as a 2K counter and block, or maybe just a leader effect 2K to get out of it. So 7, a pretty good number, I think, in this specific scenario. Gonna start out with that on the Cavendish, get rid of the Ivankov. I don't really need the Ivankov at this point, so he's going to do some weird stuff. So he's going to go ahead, use his leader effect to minus my leader while I still have a lot of Dawn up, and then use the Shanks effect to minus 2,000 on the Cavendish to be able to get the free block on here. So I'm kind of okay with that at this point. I have another Cavendish. I'm trying to look for potentially maybe a carrot, and there's the carrot right there to be able to freeze the Shanks to try to nullify the one blocker. So just going to get rid of the other Ivankov in hand, right? I don't need it. At this point, I'm going like big body right now. So going to swing at this Hongo, going to try to get some value on my leader, maybe swing 5 at lead potentially, trying to see how much he actually wants to commit to this Hongo. So is going to go ahead, get rid of that right there. And so thinking about swinging 5 with the Mihawk right here, I think I'm kind of considering playing the 2 blockers in the Rosie and Koshiro, but I think Carrot is probably my best option right now, especially with no leader effect, no Shanks effect. I am just going to go in with the 2 blockers. I actually think Carrot might have been the best play right here because this Koshiro, even though very, very good, still doesn't stop a Ben Beckman on my Cavendish. So we'll see how that play turns out for me. Just trying to, I mean, I'm not in any danger at this point because I have these swinging bodies on field. I've got this pressure, and I haven't taken a life yet right now. So he's going to be able to play Rayleigh right here. He's going to -3, -2, and try to be able to KO something, probably the Koshiro blocker right there, but only 1 or 2 swings potentially at this point. And I've got 2 blockers on the field. So I'm going to go ahead and block this first one. I think the Rayleigh not being able to swing, but the power is going to be able to stick going into next turn. So I'm trying to think is this worth value? If he tries to swing with the shanks, am I going to be able to get around it in a sense? So I'm going to get rid of the carrot right here and really question whether or not he's going to go in with this shanks. I think I'm playing Eustace Captain Kidd next turn. Going like a Eustace Captain Kidd, Rosinante play, potentially. Maybe just kind of taking a turn off of these Cavendishes, but ends up not swinging with the shank. So I'm actually thinking about swinging with these two Cavendish right now, just simply because I kind of want the cards in hand, especially with the Kidd on the field. The Cavendishes would be pseudo protected in a sense, right? Because you have to swing at the Kidd first to be able to get around them. So I'm just going to build up some counter in my hand, right? Have the red rock for when they play the 10 drop in the next turn, if they do. And so going to be swinging this forward. Doesn't really matter. Hope he doesn't do anything. He might do some stuff, especially like leader effect onto the leader or something like that. Ends up using leader effect on my other Cavendish to minus 4,000 power. And, or actually use the Shanks effect, I think. No, use the Shanks leader effect to minus 4,000 power, and then use the Shanks blocker effect to minus the Dracul Mihawk. So this is kind of a free swing almost. I'm at 9, so I don't know why he committed a card and didn't just go ahead and block with the Shanks right there. Just netted another card out of his hand, but I am going to use this play over the Mihawk. The Mihawk has done its job, in my opinion. Play down this Rosie, end the turn, restand. And the Cavendish as well, both gaining back their power. Again, really going to force him at this point with a 2-card hand, really only to have the minus on the red force. And so maybe minus 2,000 power, I feel like, in total on this kid. But especially with 2 blockers on the field, a bit of counter, and a blocker of my own in leader at this point, I'm not worried about this kid going down. This kid's going to survive within the next turn. So just as I predicted, the 10 drop coming in, I'm just going to block with leader, take that. He's only got a 1 more swing, potentially 2, if he decides to swing with the blocker shanks. So I'm thinking about just blocking with the Rosie, right? Could opt to save with the Rosinante, but I'm not going to do that. And it's just a little 1K to get rid of this shank swing right now. So just going to get rid of the Koshiro in the hand. It's kind of the worst card at this point, especially because with the red rock bottom decking the shanks, all these guys are going to be free, swings at this point. So going to be attaching 1 to the shanks, potentially swinging 7, but I think just with 4 Dawn left, I think I'm just going to use that value to be able to either play this 3-cost Rosinante that I just drew into, play the 2-cost Rosinante, and make sure that 1 is on the leader. So is going to go down to a 0-card hand, which is very scary, especially using the Shanks effect and the both Shanks effects. I'm just going to swing another 6, right? He's not going to get minus. This has to be a 2K in hand to be able to get around this. And so going to get rid of the Duval right there. I think I should have got rid of Sugar, but thinking I kept Sugar just in case he plays more 4-drop Shanks right after this turn. So I think I'm going to be swinging 6 potentially right here. I'm definitely going to be swinging at least 5 because, again, both of his leader effect and his 4-cost Shanks effects are going to be gone. And so I'm just going to be swinging that, swinging a 9 or an 7 with Kid quick math. Either way, going to be netting that card and probably play out either the Sugar or the Rosinante right now. So potentially a trigger could be the Igloo event. That could be a trigger, but is not going to be any at all. And I'm actually playing Sugar, right? If he tries to go in with another 10 drop or something of the sort, Sugar is going to be able to rest it immediately, or maybe one of these other swings. Either way, once again, still not worried about game, right? He's at a 0-card hand. I've got a way, basically, if he plays down a body, to guarantee rest this blocker, and I have another Sugar in hand to be able to rest the other blocker for just 2 Dawn. And there's that blocker like I was talking about. So I think I'm just going to rest the Rayleigh right now. There is something that I should have probably just rested the Shanks. I still think I was in an incredibly favorable position because, again, I don't think my opponent played this overly well, but especially from what I had with the different Cavendishes, having the Eustace Captain Kidd, Sugars, the Red Rocks, right? kind of shows you a little bit how, like, especially having this kind of really weird game plan and this really off-center game plan that a lot of people aren't used to, especially with a blocker on leader, really just gives you a lot of favorableness in a lot of these tough matchups when your opponent just doesn't really know what they're doing. And that's going to be it. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video and hope that you at least maybe like respect the deck a little bit. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's the best deck ever, but I do genuinely think it has legs. And as always, as many of you who have messaged me on Twitter actually as of late, I'm a pretty open book, so feel free to leave questions, etc. on that. Let me know what else you want to see, and I'll see you later.